If you've got a scenario where you want to be able to change the name of a game object by code, you can use Gameobject.name, which show a scenario like that. So in my scene here, I'm instantiating 5 game objects, and they're all just called Gameobject.clone at the moment. If we have a look at the script I'm using to generate these, I'm just running through a for loop in the start method to generate a number of objects and give them the position, the x position of my I value in the for loop. And I'm calling the game objects when I instantiate it my game objects. You saw in the scene there, they were all being called my Gameobject.clone. I'm setting their position, and to be able to name those as I instantiate them, still within the for loop, if I use, so it's called my game object, that is the name of the game object that I am referencing, and then .name, and then I can set this to whatever I want really. I can set it to a string, so if we call them my objects, and if we save that and reload the scene in Unity, and see the objects are now being called my objects, so you can pass a string to there, so we can call it my objects in grid or something, anything that you wanted within a string. We could combine 2 elements, so we could say object, and then we could add the I value. So remember, we're incrementing through the I value in this for loop, so the first time it runs through it will be 0, the second time it runs through it will be 1, and so on. So if we save that, so we're saying object, and then a space, and then plus the value of I. So if we go back into Unity and now run that, we'll say object 0, object 1, object 2, and so on. If you wanted that to start from 1 rather than from 0, you could put in brackets +1 and add 1 to that I value. If we run that, we should have object 1, object 2, and so on. And you could, if you were generating a grid, so you could name them as your x and y coordinates. So for example, if you were running through nested for loops with an x and y, you could say x plus, and then we could do a space and a comma and a space in a string, and then add the y value to it. And then in your scene hierarchy, you'd have x, comma, y, and then run through the position. So 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, and so on as you're generating your grid. So you can really name it as anything that you want. You can do this at any point in your code. It doesn't have to be just when you're instantiating the game objects. So if I wanted to rename a game object in here that had already been created, I could access that again, and again just use this, the name of the game objects, the reference that you've made, and then .name, and then set it to what you want. If you wanted to find this in the Unity documentation, you search for Object.name, and that will give you the details and a little example script doing much the same that we've done there.